stop. Oh my god.
I just started the recording. It's not a big deal. I don't have to, add it out.
Because you put it in the beginning of the last one.
So? That doesn't mean anything.
I'm never gonna say anything funny ever again.
Okay. Ba 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 da 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 ba da 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 da.
Can you imagine? That's how we started a show. Do you say anything about, important stuff before we start?
I think so.
Do we have a name yet?
No. We were going to make it up every time.
What was Trisha's name?
It was Rock, Lobster, and the Lizard.
No, it was something else.
No, it was Rock, Lobster, and the Lizard.
Okay, alright. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Eliza, and this is...
Rocco.
This podcast called Rock, Lobster, and the Lizard
is
going to be about live performances today.
Woo!
He's cheering for himself, but...
Encore! I'm the best. I'm the best.
Well...
And that's how this podcast is going to start.
At least he thinks so.
Someone has to think so.
That's true.
Someone has to think so. So I figure a really good way to start this podcast would be to talk about our first concerts and if they have any meaning. What was your first concert?
First of all, of course it has a lot of meaning because it was the Backstreet Boys.
Oh,
if anyone has ever seen the Backstreet Boys, of course that concert had a lot of meaning. And if there's any NSYNC fans who want to fight me on that, whatever. I'll leave my address at the end of this podcast, so you got to keep listening.
Just for clarity, I am also Team Backstreet Boy. I've always been for life, except when NSYNC released Pop, then I was on Team NSYNC. But before Dirty Pop,
Classic waffling we see in politics. He's not an anything. But yeah, I'm a diehard Backstreet Boys fan. So is my mom. We went to see them in Phoenix. I was 11?
What tour was this?
Never Gone. So it was the last one before Kevin took a break.
Okay.
And it was really, 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 really good because they still do all the dancing and all the singing. And listen, if you're going to go see a boy band, I'm sorry, but if they're not dancing, what's the point?
What is the point? I mean, so if you're a boy band, you have to dance. I feel like that's a huge prerequisite to seeing a boy band. It's a little bit different than going to see a choir. It kind of differentiates them in a way.
A choir.
Yeah, a church choir and a boy band.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think that dancing went out of fashion because the kids these days are like, that's not cool. What's not cool about it? Are you on drugs?
Yep.
First of all, dancing takes an incredible amount of practice and thought for it to fit to the song. I mean, choreographers work really hard to make that happen. And it's exciting. I'm going to see a show, right?
Yeah.
And essentially these are people most of the time who don't play instruments, which is fine. But if you're just going to stand around and walk around and throw water bottles on people and call that a show, I'm sorry. I could do that in my own house to people on the street.
Yeah, it's an aspect of the entertainment value of boy bands. I mean, we could really go into breaking down, what makes a boy band.
Yeah.
What makes, what's the difference between Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, because I feel if you talk about, the lineage, especially because there's the revival of boy bands, which I'm sure will come up later in this podcast, there's a distinct difference between bands that are influenced by NSYNC and bands that are influenced by the Backstreet Boys, because the Backstreet Boys were very choiry.
But even beyond that, not to cut you off, but I think there's a family of boy bands that are inspired by, going back further, like New Kids on the Block
Mm-hmm.
and the Jackson 5, which are very like, and I'm pretty sure you would agree with the Backstreet Boys. It's like a harmony type of song that's going on, as opposed to NSYNC, like you mentioned, and other bands before them that was
NSYNC.
Just like pop, you know what I'm saying?
To me, it's the same way. It's like having 5 lead guitarists in a band. Like, everybody just, like, gets a spot, and they just do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even when they would sing together, normally it's not in a harmony. It's just, like, they're all just singing the same thing together.
Yeah.
As, like, they're their own double track, if you know. Like, in music, when you record something normally as an effect, you'll sing the same thing twice and layer it over as an added effect. And that's kind of what NSYNC does live, because they don't really harmonize. They just kind of sing at the same tone and kind of triple track themselves live.
Yeah, as opposed to what the Backstreet Boys do, which they definitely like harmonize, and they take the care to have more of like an R&B type of sound.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said, we could have like a whole episode just on that, like just breaking down like the lineage of like.
I 100% guarantee there will be a boy band episode, because I know I said I was an expert last time, but if there is anything that I live and die for, it is the boy band.
That is 120,000,000% true, let me tell you.
That is very true. And I'm going to talk more about boy bands in this, about live performances. But that concert was really good. It was the last one before Kevin left, and Kevin's back now, and I've seen them since when Kevin came back. Still great. Not a huge fan of the newer stuff, but, you know, I like the classics, and I appreciate what they're trying to do. They're trying to write more themselves. But it was a really good show. To be honest, the dancing's what struck me the most.
As it should.
You know, but was it the best concert of all time? No.
I feel like if you go to see like a Backstreet Boys concert now, it's kind of like a similar effect of going to see a Poison concert in like 2000. Like, it's kind of like.
Do you want to know what? It's not as gimmicky though. Because even though the dancing is there, and the old songs are there, they're not trying to recreate what they did.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they've definitely matured with styling, effects, all the kind of show they're putting on. I feel like if you're going to see, like, Poison or something in the 21st century, they're still very gimmicky as to what they used to do.
I could see that.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, Poison's one of those bands where, like, you could tell when they came back better than when they left, which is really saying something, because, like, a lot of those bands, like, not to get too deep into, like, what happened to, like, 80s rock bands, but, like, they all kind of got killed off by grunge in the early 90s. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them never really got to have, like, that nice, like, oh, goodbye, we're leaving, like most bands get now, where, like, they're like, we're breaking up.
They have a goodbye tour. They are able to
have
closure.
Like, they really didn't get the chance to do that, along with, like, Motley Crue and, like, even Guns N' Roses had, like, a 10-year fallout. But, like, you look at, like, what Poison did, and they came back, and they sounded even better. But what they did was they capitalized on the idea of the crazy the way the 80s were, especially in rock and roll, which was very, like, party, very
hair metal.
Yeah, it was hair metal. So they capitalized a lot on that in their shows, making it very nostalgic. But in reality, their performance was phenomenal, if not the best they've ever been, which is great news for people that were fans of that band. And that's why I was saying, like, the Backstreet Boys, they were a band that at least, like, they broke up, and they didn't really have anything, like, kill them off, per se, but it did kind of, you could say that it went out of style for a little bit, the boy band thing.
Yeah, I think the boy band has the cycle of every 10 years. It's
had the cycle of every 10 years so far.
No, it's true. They have the cycle of every 10 years that they're really popular, everyone loves them, and then everyone's like, that stuff is lame, and then it comes back, and everyone's like, this stuff is cool again, blah, 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 and then it goes away, that stuff is lame, and it is what it is.
I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Like,
But the thing is, the Backstreet Boys didn't even break up. Just to correct you. Because I'm an avid fan. Okay. Well, they kept going. They just did it with 4 people.
Does anybody ever break up nowadays? It's always the hiatus. It's always the we're taking a break. It's like them and their fans are in a relationship and they don't.
What's broken up?
What?
NSYNC.
Well, okay. I feel like NSYNC's one of those groups where you just look at them and you go, well, why would Justin Timberlake ever want to humor himself with these people ever again? He would make so much more money going on tour by himself than NSYNC at this point. Yeah. And he does such a good job of reinventing himself. Like, he went away for a little bit. He did some acting. He did some stuff with The Lonely Island, SNL.
I think Justin Timberlake is like the ultimate Renaissance man. Because he can do anything.
He's one of those guys that really, the guys from One Direction and guys like Justin Bieber really should look as their primary influence as far as evolving.
Well, if you also think about it, Justin Timberlake started out in the Mickey Mouse Club, which is what you're supposed to be trained as an entertainer. So you're doing the singing, you're doing the acting, you're doing the comedy, and he took that and he ran with it.
Well, I mean, between you and me, I feel like he did such a better good job changing with the times and evolving than someone like Britney Spears did.
No, I agree, but what I'm saying is that Justin Timberlake took that concept and kept with it,
Gotcha.
as opposed to her where she just kind of focused on...
Well, she kind of got, like, her money songs, and now she's going to be, like, you know, that person that... She's going to be that nostalgia act. That person who never really goes away.
Well,
but,
she's in Vegas.
Yeah, she's doing her residencies. She has, you know, her 25 songs, you know, her 10 hits, and she'll play them. She'll make her money, and I mean, she'll come out with new songs. She does, but I mean, nothing's ever as good as, you know, like you.
Toxic was the best.
Yeah, like you pay to hear that stuff. You know, like you pay money to hear "Oops, I Did It Again." You know, you're not paying money to hear like whatever club thumper she comes out with her nasally voice. Sorry, I don't like Britney Spears, but...
I'm gonna knock him out. Listen, Britney Spears is an institution. Even if you don't like her songs...
It's not that I don't like her songs,
don't disrespect my mom like that.
Oh, Britney Spears and Dave Grohl had a baby, and that baby was you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I've never really been a big fan of her voice, personally. I don't know what it is about me. I've never really been, like a fan of, like, certain voice types. Like, and this is where she might actually get out of her chair and punch me. I never liked Axl Rose's voice. Never. Nails on a chalkboard to me. And like, it's just one of those things where he's, like, one of the most iconic rock and roll voices. You love Axl Rose.
I love 80s Axl Rose. Let me clarify.
Why am I doing this podcast anyway?
I don't know. You wanted to put yourself through this, so...
Yeah, I know.
With me.
I know. What
the
am I doing?
opposite of you.
Alright, so my first concert was Billy Joel at Shea Stadium.
I wanted to clap, but I thought it was going to be too loud on the microphone.
Clap.
I love Billy Joel.
Clap, I'll edit it down.
I love Billy Joel. I love Billy Joel. He plays for a month straight at Madison Square Garden, and it sells out every time before I get tickets. And my friend Laura of Long Island, of course she loves Billy Joel. I think it's like a requirement over there. And one day, we're going to...
It is a requirement. I'm pretty sure you get a tax write-off for owning like a certain amount of Billy Joel albums in Long Island.
No, like, you know when you buy like a discography on iTunes? You get it for free if you live in Long Island.
There you go.
And I want to take her to see Billy Joel so bad. So one day I will. But I will sing Piano Man at any time. Not right now, because I know you're about to ask me, but I watched that DVD about him, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, his, like, documentary where he went to Russia.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me clarify something really quick about this concert. Now, first thing you should know is that I went to my first concert at 17. The latest of all bloomers. I am.
No, I think a lot of people are like that. Not everyone's mom. Like, my mom just kind of drops them off somewhere when they're, like, 10. Like, go ahead, have a nice time.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those weird things for me where I always liked music, but when I got into music, I got into the older bands first, and then, as I got older and started, like, developing personal opinions on things, that's when I really got into the newer stuff. And for me, going to see a guy like Paul McCartney wasn't really feasible because you have $100 tickets for, like, a 17-year-old. That's half your paycheck. So, you know, it was just something that I never really thought about doing. Plus, I never really went to a concert, so I didn't really know if it was worth my money, worth my time. Going into the city's a hassle from Staten Island if you're a 17-year-old. Like, it's a whole thing. But we got tickets to see Billy Joel at Shea Stadium. And Shea Stadium, to me, is possibly the most identifiable place to my childhood and my teenage years, because me being a Beatles fan and me being a Mets fan are kind of intertwined, because the Beatles played the first outdoor concert ever, like the major outdoor concert at Shea Stadium. And they were the ones that kind of proved that it could be done. They had about 75,000 people in this place, and they sung through the PA mics, which was just an absolute disaster. But they proved that they could do it, and they proved that it can be a success, which paved the way for things like Live Aid and, Woodstock and all that other stuff. That was all directly resulting from the Beatles playing Shea Stadium. So whenever I would go to a New York Mets game, I would sit in the stands and look at second base, and I would go right there. That's where the Beatles played Shea Stadium. Every time. And, it was just something for me that I was just that was history. My favorite band ever played here 40-something years ago, and that's incredible to me. And when I found out Shea was closing, obviously it was very emotional for me, because I love that place. But Billy Joel decided to close the stadium down appropriately, because he knew how much music history was there. The Rolling Stones played there. Bruce Springsteen played there. It held so many great concerts over the years that he decided it would be appropriate to close it down with a couple of big blowout shows, and it was my first ever concert going there, and it's actually called The Last Play at Shea, and it's a full DVD if you were ever interested in seeing it. And he decided to make my first concert the greatest concert I've ever seen in my life. Even still, everything I've seen, the concert I saw with Billy Joel is unbelievable. First of all, he had Tony Bennett come out and sing New York State of Mind duetting with him, which is just money in itself.
I love Tony Bennett.
Money. Pure money. You just have Tony Bennett come out, money. Then they had Garth Brooks come out, and everybody's just like, okay, Garth Brooks. But he's a big Mets fan, so he came out in his New York Mets jersey, and he was like, yeah, Garth Brooks! And everyone was like, okay. He wanted to get Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan totally Bob Dylan'd and didn't show up, which was...
Classic Bob.
Classic Dylan right there. And being like, yeah, I'm going to show up to this show. And he just never shows up. And it was great. But that's fine. Roger Daltrey shows up and sings My Generation. And the lead guitarist for Billy Joel ends up smashing his guitar on the stage, which was wonderful. Steven Tyler showed up. My girlfriend Trish almost died as soon as he walked out, and they played Walk This Way. Which was, again, you're talking about,
all the classics.
You're talking about, some of the greatest singers of all time coming out onto the stage and playing music in front of you. It's incredible. And then, at the end of the night, I was a little sad, because I was kind of hoping that there would be some sort of notice for the Beatles and how they opened the show, and how they didn't get a chance to close the show, obviously, because half of them are dead. 3/4, depending on your politics. And... depending on if you believe Paul McCartney is alive or not. and it just got to the end of the show, and they started playing I Saw Her Standing There. And I was like, oh, this will be cute. A nice way.
Tribute?
Yeah, a nice little tribute to the Beatles and how they started Shea's musical history, and now he's going to end it with a Beatles song. It was one of the nicest, most pleasant surprises I've ever had at a concert. It was easily the most star-studded concert I've ever been to, and it was just an overall... It was I couldn't have picked a better concert to start my experience into live music, because it really gave me everything I ever wanted out of a live show in one place. Plus, Billy Joel played for 5 hours by himself. And he still missed Big Shot. He played for 5 hours and didn't sing Big Shot. We were all waiting for it, and he never sung it.
No, that's when I went to see Hall & Oates. They didn't play Private Eyes, and I was upset. But no, that concert's amazing. Those big concerts that are collaborative like that, they're really good. I can't even remember one that I've been to like that.
Yeah, it's definitely, I really wanted to go see...
You know what? I'm sorry to interrupt you,
okay.
But one time Sean Paul showed up at a concert I went to see.
Well, we saw Fall Out Boy and Travie McCoy showed up.
That's
the Fall
always
Out Boy
nice.
show that we were at. And the drummer for the Ramones was there, too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's true.
That was pretty cool. There's always some cool shows like that when you get to see, random people you never thought you would ever get to see, and they just pop up and do things. It's always, the more pleasant shows. I really, really wanted to go to the 12-12-12 concert, but the tickets were $700. And it was all for charity anyway, but you're talking about a college student with student loans and part-time job and working 40 hours at a radio station that the school only paid you a $200 stipend per semester. Nudge. Nudge. And that concert was incredible. That concert had Pink Floyd, that had the Nirvana reunion with Paul McCartney. That one would have been it for me. Like, I would have stopped
listening to music after that.
That would have been, like, the pinnacle of music for me. Like, I ended up watching it on TV, and I was like, if I went to the show, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Like, it would just be it for me.
That's a good show. So are we going to start with live shows then? Because I know we have DVDs also.
Yeah, we have some live shows that we picked out that we figured were, like, some of, like, the marquee live shows of our opinions.
Our musical history.
Our musical tastes. We cleansed your musical palate with our first concerts. And now we are going to indulge you in some live music based on our expertise in personal taste. I will add some fancy music behind that. Don't worry.
Okay, great. I'll start with live shows that I went to because I think Rocco has more like DVDs and like famous shows. But the first one that I have to mention is the Fall Out Boy comeback show a couple years ago. After they went on hiatus, I died for a few years. What was the point?
She was dead.
I was legally dead for a few years. I lost my name, my identity. Have you ever seen that episode of SpongeBob where he lost his identity just because he turned his ID the wrong way?
Yep.
That's what I was doing for like 2 or 3 years. 3 years? Oh my God, I don't even know. Time stood still.
She was dead. How does she know? This concept of time is gone. She's dead.
Well, Fall Out Boy, on February 4th, Pete Wentz said, we're not getting back together. And then the next day, February 5th, they were like, comeback show, New York, Chicago, LA. And I was like, this is a stress.
And I was like, classic Pete.
Classic Pete. But, so anyway, February 5th, they announced a show, and the show was the same day. And I had to buy tickets in the morning. Me and my friend Justine were on the phone, and she was going to be late for work, and I was going to be late for school, and we were like, forget it, doesn't matter. None of these things matter right now because we have to get tickets to Fall Out Boy. And miraculously, we each got 2 tickets, and we went that night. It was at Webster Hall, but the studio, which is the basement, and I think that's a capacity of like 200 people. It's very, very small. So we went to this show, and I have to say, everyone there was older. Like, they seemed all of our age, and, you know, that they were Fall Out Boy fans,
well,
which is...
I mean, they had to buy tickets at, like, noon on a Tuesday, right?
It was, like, 10. Like,
10 a.m.?
Yeah, 9 or 10 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But the thing is, like, a lot of these shows, you see a lot of kids, which is fine, but, like, it's kind of nice to have everyone you kind of know and are familiar with and things like that, because it's, like, a nostalgia thing. Because we didn't think they were ever going to come back. So there were a lot of older people there. That was good. And that place was insane. It was packed wall to wall. Everything was a mosh pit. This guy jumped off the bar and used my head and Justine's head to launch himself into the crowd. Like, I mean, this show was crazy. And they played all the old songs, which, of course, like, are much more gritty than the new stuff.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Like, I would die for Patrick. No questions asked. Because I think he's, like, the greatest musician. My dad loves him, like, the most in life. Because he's like, that's a real musician's musician, Eliza. He was on Daryl Hall's House thing. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, no, listen, he's really a musician. And I was like, okay, yeah, I know. I know. I was actually going to talk about Ed Sheeran. Because I've seen him a lot of times, and the most recent time I saw him was Prudential Center.
Oh, yeah?
I think. That show, it was good, and I think he's a great performer, but I saw him in Irving Plaza which is small.
Yeah.
Especially by comparison.
Irving Plaza probably holds, like...
It's like 1,500 people?
Yeah, like 1,500...
To 2,000?
Yeah, in comparison to, like...
30?
Yeah, like 25 to... Like 2025.
2025 is Prudential Center, and then Irving Plaza is like 1,500 people.
So it's a huge size difference for those that have never been to these places.
Yeah, so when I saw him in the smaller venue, he suits a small venue so well. I mean, you could just imagine with his type of music. And there was one part of the show that he got off the mic and went into the middle of the crowd, and everyone had to get super quiet, and he just performed in the middle. And it was really, really, really nice. Like, it felt really intimate. It felt really, like, genuine. This is going to sound weird, but you could, like, sink your teeth into it. Do you know what I mean?
I actually know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, actually. I have this guitarist that I really love, Khaki King, who is just a wonderful acoustic guitarist and singer, musician. And I'm sure I'll talk about her a lot more in future episodes, so I won't get too much into what she does. But the one time I saw her live was in a little music lounge, and her music just suited like a 300-person venue so much. Mm-hmm. Like those kind of musicians where you could just sit there and play guitar, like they could fill up a stadium,
right.
but they sound so much better, and it just means so much more when they could just sit there and talk about each song before they play it, and then just go into it. And you come out of it a lot more satisfied.
Yeah, I think that was the problem with the Prudential Center show. It's not that it wasn't a great show, but I just felt like it was too much. Like, you know how he uses the loop pedal to do a lot of his songs, especially live? Like, I think the quality of that and the genuineness of that in a small venue is so much better than a large venue. Because do you want to know what? Like, if you're using a loop pedal, people have to be really quiet. And it's just really hard to translate in a really big venue. It was not my favorite show, that last one. But when I saw him in a small venue, that was another thing that was on my list that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, a loop pedal is something that takes a lot of timing, and it takes a lot of precision to do. Just because, like, you're basically laying down your own beat and having it loop infinitely. So if you're playing at a show like the Barclays Center, or like the Prudential Center, or something, like some like medium-sized, like basketball, hockey style venue, and not the Garden. I won't put the Garden because the Garden has acoustics unlike any other. Like, you could be in Madison Square Garden, you could have a full conversation, and the music will sound like it's going straight into your ears. Just because of the way the Garden is, that's why it's like the mecca for music, is just because of the way sound travels in that arena. But in a place like, in most other, like...
sporting venues.
Yeah, most other, like, basketball, hockey-sized venues, it's a lot harder to convey that kind of stuff. I'm surprised he didn't have a touring band. I understand why he didn't.
He did have a band with him at the Prudential Center.
Okay.
So they were able to make that effect of having a band with him, but he still used a loop pedal.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
It's something, like, I'll actually bring up a performance that is on my list using a loop pedal that I actually showed Eliza that really pulled that effect off in a crowd of people that was maybe like 100,000 people. And that concert is the Red Hot Chili Peppers live at Slane Castle. The way that they laid this concert out was about a 3-hour show. And obviously, I didn't go see it because Slane Castle is in Ireland. So I did not go all the way to Slane Castle, Ireland in 2000 to go see them perform this. But it is just a wonderful show where they go for about 3-4 hours and they play their hits from Californication, By the Way, and all their earlier stuff. So it was before Stadium Arcadium and all that. And it was right when John Frusciante got back in the band. And John Frusciante is my son. Like, I follow him to north? Whatever. You get it. He's my North Star. Better way to put it.
Okay.
John Frusciante is the guy musically that I follow for inspiration. And he decided to start one of these songs called Venice Queen with a loop pedal. And I figured this would be a really good transition for that. And he decided to put like these really ambient tones with making his guitar almost sound like a violin. the way that he was able to work his volume knob on his guitar while striking the chord. So when he turned the volume up, it was already mid-note, so it sounded a lot more like a violin than a guitar. And he ended up looping this and turning it into, like, ambient back noise for the song. If you've ever heard Venice Queen, it's just this long, stretched out, like, not really like a ballad, but more like an indie track for the Chili Peppers. Like, there's really not too much rapping in it or anything. Like, Anthony Kiedis gets to show up his vocals. John Frusciante gets to shine with his backing vocals and his guitar work. And it's a great song, especially live, because John Frusciante has an older version of the guitar I was talking about before, where I was talking about that Martin mini acoustic guitar that Ed Sheeran uses. John Frusciante uses the earlier version of that from, like, 1955. It's like the Martin 015, which is a 3/4 scale guitar, and he has it, because it's so old, he can't put a strap on it. So he has it propped up on his mic holder, so that way it just stays up while he plays his electric guitar for the first half of the song. And the way that he really gets this to work is during the transition of the song, when he needs to switch guitars, everyone just stops playing, and the ambient back loop from his loop pedal keeps shining through everything. And I'm not sure if it's his specific loop pedal or the way that it's mixed, or it might just be from the live performance. Maybe if you're there in the crowd, you don't even hear it. It all depends on how things work, because it's an open air concert, so it's a little bit different than an enclosed stadium concert, especially the way the sound works, because if you're in an open air concert, they can really crank the volume up on you. Like, they can really turn it up to 11, because you're not enclosed in this one place that'll shatter your eardrums. So,
Right. I also think it's really dependent on the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that a lot of the Red Hot Chili Peppers fans know that that's something that he's doing, and not that Ed Sheeran fans don't know this, but they're more respectful of that, and they understand they need to.
Yeah, I could definitely see that too, because I feel like a lot of people that go see Ed Sheeran might be seeing him for the first time, might not necessarily be knowing what they're getting into as far as, like, a concert that includes a band, or that includes, like, that style of music. They might not really know what to expect, especially from a world of entertainers going to see a musician play.
Mm-hmm.
They might not necessarily know how to
Interact.
to take that in. They might not know how to take that in. Like, if you're going to see John Frusciante and he does something, like, everyone kind of just, like, watches him do it, because it's kind of like watching someone paint or something. Like, you're watching someone create something.
Right. No, I understand, because a lot of Ed Sheeran's fans are an influx of One Direction fans, as we know, so they're very young. So I think it's fair to say that this is their first time at a concert for a lot of them. And then also, he obviously was around during 18, but like I said, he was playing smaller venues.
Mm-hmm.
So when he blew up with Thinking Out Loud, and that's why he's playing a huge venue like Prudential Center, then that's another batch of people who are seeing him for the first time.
Yeah. It's very interesting to see the way that people react to bands. This wasn't on my list, but I guess I'll talk about it a little bit more, just because we talked about it a little bit on the first podcast, and I went to this concert. But I went to go see Dream Theater with one of my best friends, and they're one of those bands that you would think, because they're metal, everyone would be going crazy and, like, moshing and going all over the place. When they played, we were in the pit, and everyone just stared at their fingers. Because Dream Theater is really a band that panders to musicians. So other people that play guitars and stuff would go to their shows and watch them play it. And instead of, like, taking in the music and, like, dancing or whatever, they're just watching them play. It's like they're watching someone do a tutorial. And most people don't think about going to a concert for that reason, but there are a lot of bands that pander to that pander to the fact that people want to see how your fingers move on the guitar. People want to see how you make that drum fill, or how you hit those vocals. Like, people want to actually see you do that. So when they play these venues,
It's like a master class for a lot of these people.
Yeah, so, like, when you know how, like, they'll have the cameras and they'll zoom in on the people singing or whatever, when you go to see these kind of bands in concerts, they zoom in on the guitar and their fingers moving up and down the fretboard. Like, that's what people want to see when they go to these concerts. It's very different from what most people think of when you go to, like, a live show, where you want to be just entertained and you want to be, like, satisfied from, like, dancing and singing along to the songs. Like, these people go there because they want to witness
something.
they want to witness this person do something that is really hard. Like that's basically why they go to this show. So it's pretty cool. It's definitely different. It wasn't on my list of things to talk about, but I figured since something like that came up, I would.
Yeah, no, I think that's relevant to what we're talking about.
Another concert that was on my list though was Led Zeppelin's Song Remains the Same, and I'm not going to go too deep into this because it's a very classic concert, but it is, in my opinion, a perfect concert. It's one of those concerts where if you really want to get into 70s rock or Led Zeppelin in particular, and you don't really know where to start with it, that is your concert. Song Remains the Same. The version of Stairway to Heaven on there is possibly the most perfect piece of music your ears will ever hear.
That's true.
It's.
I was telling Rocco earlier, actually, that my dad and I watched that particular performance. It's really good.
Yeah, it's just one of those shows where these guys, they were always so talented, but at this particular show, it's at the Garden, which helps, again, like I said, with the acoustics. It makes the music sound so much better when you're in that venue for whatever reason. And they sound possibly the best you'll ever hear them. So if you ever want to get into that genre of music, or if it's just something that you've never heard of, or like that particular performance, and you want to check it out, its Song Remains the Same. It is on YouTube. It is phenomenal.
I concur. Okay, so the next one that I want to talk about is the Hives. A couple years ago, our friend Rudy was like, do you want to come with me to see the Hives? And I was like, who's that? He's like, okay, so you're coming with me to see the Hives.
Shout out to Rudy, by the way. Hey, Rudy.
Hi. I'm seeing him on Monday.
Nice. Well, last Monday from when this comes out.
That's true. And then he's going to listen to this and be like, why are you talking about me? But we went to go see the Hives, which is, oh my God, I don't want to say the best show I've ever been to, but easily like top 3. I did not know one song, but I had so much fun, I thought I was going to die. Like, it's so engaging, it's so much fun, and they all wear tuxedos.
I feel a trend on your list. The Fall Out Boy show, you died before the show, and then you almost got killed.
And then I got brought back to life.
You almost got killed at the show.
But I was alive at the end. Then I went to see the Hives, and then I was murdered. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a trend
There's
here.
a lot of reincarnation when I go to concerts and when I listen to music because I always die. And they're all in tuxedos. Their stagehands are all dressed as ninjas.
Classic Hives.
Classic. And then there was one point where the lead singer told everyone to sit down on the ground, and then he had them pass him to the back on their hands, like crowd surfing, but they're sitting on the ground.
Okay.
And then he was like, when this song gets lit, basically, that's when we all stand up.
When this song gets lit, you all stand up.
Yeah,
okay.
That's pretty much what's going on. And I was like, that man is going to die today. That's unbelievable. And so
I'm about to watch someone get killed. This is phenomenal.
Well, then the song is happening, and then it gets lit, and they all stand up, and they just crowd surf him back to the front. I was like, this is crazy. I don't even understand what's happening right now.
Yep.
So honestly, easily top 3 shows of all time. That was the best ever. I did not know anything about that band, and then after that, I listened to them all the time. Paloma Faith, who I talked about last week, was also at that concert and sang a song with them.
That's wonderful.
And that was a surprise because I love her. But yeah, that show was lit as when they all stood up.
As lit as when they all stood up. I actually have a very disappointing concert experience.
What is that?
Like I wanted to share it. That I have a few that like. Okay, so first, I went to go see Jefferson Airplane live in concert. Now, this is not as disappointing as it sounds, just because they're a band in hindsight that I'm happy I saw because you can't see them ever again. Because after I saw this performance, their guitarist died and the band broke up. So, I'm glad I got to go see them, but all in all, I paid about $70 to go see them play in Manhattan, and they played 2 songs. Like they played like a bunch of like jams, which is always like it's nice to hear. But they played like you basically paid $7 to hear 2 songs from them. And at the end of the day, my college roommate who was with me was really mad because you know what his favorite song is of all time? We Built This City by Jefferson Starship. And guess who was sitting right by the stage? We were sitting right by the stage. So when they got tired of playing their songs and they asked us for requests, and my roommate screamed out, "Play We Built This City!" Guess who gave us the weirdest faces on the planet? If you answer everybody, you are correct. Because We Built This City is widely renowned as one of the worst songs ever written, and they refuse to play it. So we basically paid $70 to have my roommate just get told no by a band. And
that's incredible.
It was, like I said, it was a good experience. It was hilarious for me. But he had to drive me home. So that was great. He drove like 85 on the highway going back because he was so mad. It was fun.
Oh, I thought he cried the whole way home.
No, he was mad. Hi, Jordan, if you're listening to this.
Oh.
He was mad. It was pretty funny, though. In hindsight, it was funny. He would agree with me that it's very disappointing. I also went to another concert with him that was also slightly disappointing, but in different ways. Like, we saw the Scorpions at PNC.
My dad loves that band.
Now, we saw the Scorpions because they said it's their last tour ever. Last time they're playing the United States ever. They're a German band. So we went and looked up the tickets. They were $10 each. We were like, that's the price of a movie. Do we want to go see a movie? Or do we want to see the last time anybody ever plays Rock You Like a Hurricane in PNC? So we were like, you know what? Let's pay $10 and see the Scorpions play Rock You Like a Hurricane for the last time in the tri-state area. So we went for that. And they played a 3-hour show of songs we've never heard before, surrounded by hostile bikers that were all looking at us weird because we're the 2 weird teenagers sitting around a bunch of 40-somethings with leather vests and beards. And by the time Rock You Like a Hurricane comes on, which is like their second encore, I don't know, and they end up playing the song, and we're like, you know what? Still, we got to hang out. It was still a fun night, even though we didn't enjoy the vast majority of the concert. But it was still, like, we still got to hang out and have fun. And then we found out they went back on tour. It wasn't even their farewell tour.
Well.
And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I am done. I'm done with you, the Scorpions.
Dang.
I'm done with you. I got what I needed out of you, and now I'm done.
No, my dad loves that band because of, oh my god, what's the name of the song that they do with the Philharmonic?
That they do with the Philharmonic.
Yeah,
Honestly,
the German Philharmonic. Okay,
I've
I know
seen more Scorpions than I ever need to hear in my life, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I know There's No One Like You, and I know Rock You Like a Hurricane, and that's all anybody ever needs to know about the Scorpions. You might have a third to add to that list, but I don't know
I can't think of it. When you're talking about your next thing, I'm going to Google it, but do you want me to talk about mine, and I'm going to go into DVDs, or you want to finish up with something you want to say?
Okay, I could make a quick point. There's something to be said about the White Stripes and the way that they played live. And I don't have a specific performance of them, but they do have a documentary of them going through their Canadian tour. And the White Stripes are really interesting because they're just a drummer and just a guitarist, and they just play together with no help on anything. And to me, it was very inspiring for me as an up-and-coming musician and just as a fan, because to me, it felt like you don't need to have all of these bells and whistles to put together a full sound of music. And that's something that I really loved about them, that they really showed me you don't need to put all this flashy stuff together, but the gritty garage rock thing can still be successful if you put heart into it.
You're wearing a Jack White t-shirt.
I did it on purpose.
Okay, I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah.
Because they can't see it.
They were on my list.
It was Moment of Glory.
Moment of Glory.
That's the Scorpion song they did with the Berlin Philharmonic. because it's gonna bother me.
Okay, so linked on the website. Boom.
Yeah, no,
Future Eliza, get on that. Boom.
I'm gonna put all of these on the website, which is going to go up today.
Read our bios.
Read
Read our bios if you're on our website. Read the bios. We'll try to find a way to get the SoundCloud on there at some point.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
The last thing I want to talk about for live performances, which will lead into my beginning of talking about DVDs and things that I watch online, is EXO. That's a K-pop band that came here, and I went to see them at Prudential Center. And I've liked them since like last April or something. That show was crazy. These shows are so incredibly long, which is something else I'm going to talk about with another band, but it was like a 3-hour show, no breaks. I was standing for just them. There's no opening act, nothing like that. I didn't have to even think about an opening act, which I like opening acts sometimes, and that's how I find a lot of bands. That's how you find bands that you like. But let me tell you, this was 3 hours was a lot, and it was a lot. Like, I had a lot of fun, and it's a boy band. They danced. Dancing was amazing. Singing was amazing, and I had a really fun time.
Yeah, there's nothing about that surprised me. Like, I'm just saying. Like,
no, I really like boy bands. I said it before. I really do. And, I mean, K-pop, is a genre unto itself. And there are a lot of boy bands, but there are a lot of K-pop artists that, err in the side of solo artists and things like that I like as well. But they don't often come here. It's not like there's a huge market for them, enough for them to put on a show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is changing because a lot more bands are coming here, but I thought I was going to die if I didn't get tickets to this show. Another time that I'm risking my life about a concert. And then at the show, I came alive, and then I died, but all in one show. So it was a very complete experience.
Now, for those of you listening at home, this is what our conversations are like. Like, this isn't like a show we're putting on.
No,
like,
this is exactly how I talk.
Like, this is like if you've never met Eliza in real life, and you ever just bump into her on the street and ask her what she thinks about like Bret Michaels, she would say that if I look at him, I would die.
That's true.
Like,
if I also looked at him without his hairpiece, I would die. But I know I die for a lot of things, but this was such a good show. It's unbelievable the production quality that they had in this show. And they didn't even have the same level of quality that they have on, their shows at home, which I'm going to mention that there's this one performance by them when they were still a 12-member band, because 3 people have since left. And it's for an award show.
Okay.
That counts, right? Yeah, it's
award show. I want to do something. I mean, hopefully this podcast lasts, but I would like to do something towards like December.
Grammy season?
Yeah, just to like have a whole episode on like expectations of like award shows and performances and stuff like that. And then afterwards we could even do a review.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
But you could if you hear something that like you want to talk about, go right ahead.
So in this particular performance, it was for an award show, and it was 2 songs. It was Growl and Wolf, I think it was. Usually I skip out before Wolf because I'm not a huge fan of that song. But it's, how when we watch award shows here, they're on stage, and then we watch it, and like they have some close-ups, but it's mostly like the stage performance.
Yep.
This one had like 360-degree cameras. There were close-ups.
Wow.
It was like a very involved. Like, if you had not told me that this was an award show, I would have thought this was like a concert DVD.
But
if that makes sense.
That's awesome. That's a great way to establish an identity. I agree. And to like keep your branding. Like, I feel like that's a big issue in the not pop world of music nowadays. Is people have a very hard time establishing some sort of identity for themselves. And what I mean by that is like a lot of the pomp and circumstance of music and going to see them live is like you're paying to see them like it's an experience.
Yeah, you're paying for the full package.
Like when I would go to Shea as a kid, I would look onto the infield and I would see the Beatles in their suits playing this song. And to me, that was a very and to many thousands of people, it's a very iconic image of them, you know? It's the same reason why Paul McCartney plays the same bass now that he did when he was with the Beatles, is for that branding. He can afford any bass in the world, but he plays a $500 bass that he picked up in Germany in 1960 because it's branding. It's something that people identify with and people pay money to see him play it.
To that point, when you say to keep your brand, especially at award shows, which I'm sure we'll go into in a lot more detail, a lot of times artists cannot put on a performance that really identifies with their brand because of the nature of award shows, the way everything's set up, the types of collaborations you have to do. So it's definitely something that's not unfamiliar, but I feel like this performance, like quality-wise, they were amazing. I mean, everything was on point, but even so, I felt like I was watching their concert, not the award show.
Yeah. Do you remember, I don't want to get too much into this because it is a Grammy performance, but there was one time where Josh Homme and Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters and a couple of other people closed out the Grammys. Do you remember this? It was a few years ago, and they played the credits over them and faded them out halfway through.
Yeah.
And I was furious. I waited for that. Like, that was the only thing I cared about that year at the Grammys, was that one performance. And I was like, oh, it's going to be the last performance of the night. That's going to be pretty cool. And they played them off like a house band. I was furious. Like, it's just one of those moments where, like you said, where, like, the confines of the show take away who you are as a band. Like Josh Homme, if you don't know who he is, he's the guitarist for Queens of the Stone Age, and he is a very, very larger-than-life personality. He has coiffed hair. He looks very much out of the 50s style. He's one of those guys who you should not be surprised if you see him smoking a cigarette in a leather jacket and flicking it onto a shoe and kicking it into the street. Like, that's the kind of guy he is. And for him to play the show and get played off like that was so insulting, and he threw the biggest fit backstage because the director cut him off. And nobody knew. Like, they found out, like, at the tail end of their performance and just walked off the stage. They were like, are you kidding? Like, how do you just...
Why are you billing us one way and then you're just throwing us in the ditch afterwards? That's why I'm so surprised that I even have an award show performance on this list. Because, as you know, like, I really love going to shows. Like, I go to at least 15 a year. At least. Something like that. So I really enjoy the concert experience of going to see that person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't watch things like the Grammys or the VMAs or things like that unless there's someone performing that night that, like, I really want to see. And even then, it's like, what am I really going to get out of that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, why am I going to, for example, like, why am I going to watch, like, that performance or something like that? Right? Why am I going to spend my time and, like, wait 3 hours than to see them play for a minute and a half? Whereas I could go and, like, watch a live DVD of them or, like, something like that. I don't know. There's just something about award shows that is just garbage. Like, I mean, the whole thing is garbage, but, like...
I completely agree to the aspect of the whole way it's set up is not really pandering towards the musicians. It's pandering towards the people watching, which in a way isn't really fair because the musicians play their music a certain way. And the only way I can describe this and the way music is cultured right now is if you look at the way the Oscars are set up. The Oscars have it right. And what I mean by that is you don't see things like Transformers 2 winning the Oscar for Best Picture, even though it might be very commercially successful.
I think what you mean, at least what I'm getting from it, is that, like, the Oscars do not become the People's Choice Awards.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas
I hate the Grammys basically became the VMAs, and it pisses me off to no end that they've
get that.
That like I appreciate the fact that, like, Beck won last year. I appreciate the fact that Robert Plant and Alison Krauss won, like, 3 years ago. Like, those are all phenomenal albums. Adele's album was great both times. And it's just one of those moments where I feel like you're looking at like the album of the year or like breakout star, and it's just like just these people that should be winning the breakout star on the Kids' Choice Awards.
Well, it's not even that, but let's take even this Grammys, not to get too far into it, because I think we're just going to go off on a forever tangent.
Yeah.
But Meghan Trainor won breakout star. She broke. What breaking out is she doing in 2016?
I was talking about that too when it happened. I was like, didn't her songs come out like in 2014?
That's what I'm saying. What breaking out is she doing in 2016? Nothing. She's not doing anything. I mean, I don't understand it. But you know what? We're gonna go off too much into the Grammys and complaining, and then totally get away from live performances. But I just want to end my list because I just talked about like DVDs and also K-pop bands with Chinese. Okay. I'm Your Boy, Tokyo Dome, which I made you watch just now before the podcast recording. And that show is 3.5 hours. And it's online, you can find it. I sat there with my brother. We watched for 3 hours, no breaks, because I could not get up. Because that was like the most high energy performance for 3.5 hours. I have no idea how these people are not dead. I mean, I know I am, but I don't understand how they do it. And obviously, when you go to see a band, your dream is that they play every song they've ever done, or almost every song they've ever done, because you want the whole.
Your dream is to see what I saw when I saw Billy Joel.
Exactly. So Billy Joel played like almost every song he's ever written.
Except Big Shot.
And you just sit there and you just enjoy it for like 50 hours. That's fine. That's the greatest thing with the EXO experience and watching the Shiny DVD. They play like every single song they've ever had.
Yep.
And I guess that's an expectation for those kinds of bands, because first of all, I was shocked. Second of all, I couldn't get up the whole time because I couldn't believe it. And I can't believe I enjoyed a DVD. You know what? 99.99% of the time, I hate watching concerts on DVD. But maybe it's because I'm jealous I wasn't there and I can't handle that kind of emotion.
I like concerts on DVD because I feel like you could do other things while it's playing. Like, you could have it on in the background as like music. At the same time, if you have a chance to sit and watch it, you can really get submersed into it like you're actually at a concert. I also think it's much better if you have a better sound system to listen to it through. Mm-hmm. Like, it's definitely a unique experience to going to see a concert and listening to the studio album. It's very different things. Like, if you've never been to a concert and you've only saw like live things on YouTube, it is totally different seeing someone play something live than it is seeing them play it on TV or on your computer in a studio recorded live thing.
Yeah, I was also going to say, like, I don't mind live albums. Like, I'll listen, like 5 Seconds of Summer has a live album from their last tour, and I really enjoy that album. But I also went to see them. I feel like if I hadn't, and then I had to listen to the live album, I'd just be mad. I don't know. I think it's just because I'm a jealous person like that, that if I'm, like, not at a show, I feel like I've missed out on something. That's why I go to so many shows throughout the year, because it's just, like, I have to know. And you the concert experience is just, that's why I'm alive. Like,
yeah, I mean, I go to maybe 5 concerts a year. I don't go to too many, but I have, like, a list of people I want to see and a list of people that I wouldn't mind seeing again. And those are pretty much the concerts that...
That sounds so sad. I wouldn't mind seeing them again. Well, I'm not going to suffer if I have to go again.
Well, I mean it more of if they come around and I can go, I'd like to go.
I got you.
Like, I don't think I would be devastated if I couldn't go. But I don't think there's really anybody, beside from, like, a Led Zeppelin reunion, that I would just be destroyed if I couldn't go. Everybody else, I think I'd be okay. Because I've seen a lot of people that I really wanted to see. Like, speaking of seeing people that I really want to see, I am actually, for everybody listening at home, this would be last Saturday. For you, this would be tomorrow. I'm going to see The Who at the Prudential Center.
Are you going to cry the whole time?
Well, it's the first time I've ever seen The Who. I saw Roger Daltrey at that Billy Joel concert. But The Who right now is just Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend. arguably the two least talented members of The Who are still alive. and I don't take anything away from Roger or Pete for what they do.
You're going to show up and just roast them.
No, I'm not. I don't mean it to roast them. I'm just putting John Entwistle and Keith Moon on that much of a pedestal because I feel like they're that influential and that talented at bass and drums, respectively. Fun thing about The Who is that Keith Moon and Ringo Starr of the Beatles were best friends. And when Ringo had a kid, Keith was the godfather for Ringo's son. And he bought Ringo's son his first drum kit, and Keith kind of mentored his son. His name is Zach. And after Keith passed away, The Who took a prolonged break, as most bands would do that have been together for that long with the same group. They took a prolonged break because Keith was such a unique sound to them. And when they came back, they wanted a good drummer. So they had Ringo's son be their drummer.
Is he still doing that?
He should be. I hope he is. That'd be very nice. I mean, The Who wrote some of the best albums and songs that I love so much. So I'm really looking forward to going. Like I said, it'll be in the past for everybody listening to this.
That's exciting, though.
Yeah, if you want my reactions, you could go to my Twitter at Shiripar.
I'll put that in our bios on the website.
And you can go and check out my reactions because I'm sure I will be going off on what was good and what was bad about that show as it happened.
In all caps.
In all caps. Be like, oh my god, they're playing Tommy. And
#
I'm just gonna
excited.
Yeah. It's gonna be great.
That's gonna be a good show.
That's literally what I'm gonna put, all lowercase, # excited.
That's like an Eliza level #, everything in monotone.
Yep. So that's pretty much the plan. Do you have anything crazy going on for the next week?
I'm going to see Noel Fielding tonight. That's not a concert, but he's a comedian. And he's actually on... Have you ever watched Nevermind the Buzzcocks?
Yes.
That's a British quiz show, and they actually talk a lot about music, and it's like quiz about music. So, if anyone hasn't seen it, you should watch it, because Noel is one of the team leaders on that, and it's really good.
It's great, so we're going to have to hear how that goes next week.
Yeah, or you could also check my Twitter, and I'm going to be just yelling. Just nothing coherent.
And Eliza is at I'm Always Dead at concerts, if you're wondering.
I'm always dead all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Is that it?
So, I think that's it. I think we should say goodbye.
I think we're done like some hard-boiled eggs.
We're done like some hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
That's great. So this has been Rock, Lobster, and the Lizard. I hope you've enjoyed our show. If you liked it, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Let us know where your favorite concerts were, what your first concert was. Love to hear about it. And
do you know any of these bands?
If you do...
Have you seen them?
If you do, leave a comment in...
The website?
In the website. In the thing. In the SoundCloud. Like, in the spot where we talk about it. Let me know if you've seen this or you've heard of it.
Yeah, put comments so we know. And if you have any suggestions and ideas, we always have our ears open.
Ears are constantly being flooded with good music and suggestions. So. Yeah. Bye!
Bye!